Hello everyone and welcome back to a best of 5 series of professional StarCraft 2. Today it's time for a Zerg versus Zerg, where in game number 1 we find ourselves on the map Lightshade. Spawning here in the top left hand corner, playing with the blue Zerg drones from Russia, we have none other than Vanya. His opponent in the opposite corner with the red Zerg drones from Italy, we're looking at Reynor's main base. Alrighty, so I heard that this particular series is a lot of fun. I'm excited to find out exactly what ended up going down. Considering a couple of you recommended it to me, I'm gonna make the assumption that Vanya is gonna do Vanya things. He's definitely not afraid to play very aggressively. So I'm expecting some cheese out of the Russian player here in this particular series. Now, real quick, in case you're unfamiliar, Vanya has been steadily climbing through the ranks over the course of the last couple of years, to the point where right now he's considered to be the highest ranked player from Russia. On a legal leg, he is ranked number 14 outside of South Korea, so definitely someone you want to keep in mind. He's also still very young, 20 years old. Steadily improving. Yeah, definitely someone you want to not forget about. His opponent, I mean, I've casted him many times before, but real quick, in case you're unfamiliar with Reynor, Reynor's very good at the game. There you go. He won IEM Katowice this year, making him the world champion of StarCraft 2 currently. He's won a lot of money over the course of the last couple of years as well. And even though, I mean, I feel like I've covered Reynor for like 5 years at this point, Reynor literally turned 19 like 2 months ago. So, you know, take that for what it's worth. I didn't want you to go through an existential crisis at the beginning of this video, but this man has achieved a lot at only 19 years old. Anyways, standard builds right here from the both of them. Hatch gas pool. It is, of course, the gold standard in Zerg versus Zerg. We do usually see a little bit of a shuffle with the drones here earlier on, so you can see Vanya. I mean, if I'm being very critical, right, you can see he's 8 gas behind his opponent. But he's got that drone out just ever so slightly quicker. There's basically this weird, like, game of chicken being played with the gas. So obviously, right, if you make Zerglings early on, your opponent is also going to have to respond with Zerglings. If you make 4 Zerglings and your opponent makes 2, you're going to effectively be 1 drone behind. So usually we see players trying to, like, delay upgrades and delay the Zerglings as much as possible, while, you know, not trying to take any risks and not trying to, like, you know, play too greedily. But there's this weird game of chicken going on where, like, you want to ideally finish up Zergling speed a little bit after your opponent, because that means you were mining minerals for a little bit longer than the opponent, and therefore you probably have slightly more workers. I mean, ZVZ, it's all about the game of drones. A couple of Zerglings found in the tall grass. Vanya trying to target fire it down, but Reynor a little bit too good for that. Third hatchery comes up right here for the Italian. Are we going to see a third as well for Vanya? No. That is a very quick lair. Now, Vanya's not afraid to, he's not afraid to play cheeky games. The fact that he got the lair in the natural is a little bit surprising to me. I guess it's because he really wants to get the queen out inside of the main base. Yeah, this allows him to go for a full wall off, and obviously you won't miss any injects inside of the main, but it's, yeah, definitely something Reynor can just scout, right? If he runs a Zergling to the front here, which he probably is going to do in a little bit, he's going to find out about this this lair timing right from the get-go. So we're going to see +1 missile as well. Yep, we are. So this is an extremely quick Roach Warren and an extremely quick lair. Judging by the timing right there of the Roach Warren, yeah, they're going to finish up right around the same time with the lair. I think it is going to be a Roach speed push. It's the only thing that really makes sense. The question is, how many drones is he going to make? So there are a couple of varieties to this particular build, which makes it extremely difficult to read right now for Reynor, because obviously you can't just fly an Overlord in. There's a 30 drone variant where you basically make 30 workers and then you hit your opponent in the face. You can go all the way up to like full, you know, 2-base saturation as well, which would be 44 workers. At this point, Reynor really has no way of finding out, but Vanya is already making roaches. Reynor, in the meantime, on the other side of the map, has finished up the lair. He's going to go for the +1 carapace. Okay, so that benefits both the Zerglings as well as his own roaches once this Roach Warren finishes up. But as you can see, he's invested into a lot more workers so far, and he needs to cut drones. He needs to really stop making workers. I mean, what he's going for right now is great if the opponent would go 44 drones as well, but that's not what's happening. Yeah, so Vanya playing a bit of a trick right here on his opponent, pulling drones out of gas as well. This is a hyper-aggressive start. So he's probably going to push as soon as roach speed finishes. +1 missile will not be too far behind either. And the thing with +1 missile is that when it finishes, it's going to allow these roaches to two-shot the Zerglings of the opponent until +1 armor finishes up, rather than 3-shot. So it's absolutely huge. Even the queens are coming across. Okay, he's even creating like a creep highway right here with these additional overlords that apparently are spreading creep on the other side of the map. This low ground third base is not really going to help out either, because the queens and the roaches here of Vanya are going to be able to speed up quite effectively over there. Is there going to be enough right now for Reynor to hold on? So he hasn't started up any spines. He's just making... Well, he's got 1 spine, apparently. He's just making as much here as he can. But this, honestly, seems like a Vanya win, right? I mean, there's just so many roaches. Unless I misunderstand what's going on here. He's just jumping on top of the army. +1 missile is done as well. +1 carapace is not too far behind. But, I mean, the fight is happening before that upgrade is done. These roaches hit like an absolute truck. Reynor, at the very least, is going to be able to force, or he's going to be forced to pull a couple of the drones. That's something. Queens have finally arrived as well. They're going to transfuse the weakened units back up to full. Oh, if you can cancel the +1 carapace, that would be nice. Nah, I think it is going to finish. Very close. It is just barely going to finish. Yeah, Roach Warren also in trouble. Okay, that's the last Roach Warren. Or the last Roach, I guess, for now. Starts up another spine over here, and that's something, but... I mean, now you're going to be forced to make Zerglings against +1, I guess with the +1 carapace then it doesn't really matter all too much, but... Yeah, this is too much, right? There's just more blue than there is red. Very cheeky game number 1. So Vanya skipping the Baneling Nest. Skipping the Zergling speed, going straight into a lair, going straight into 3 queens. And there it is. Alrighty, and just a couple minutes into this video, we already find ourselves on Jagannatha, which is going to be map number 2 in this best of 5 series. Now, real quick, what could Reynor have done better there? So Reynor tried to play a very safe build against like a quote-unquote standard 2-base opener, right? So he went for Zergling speed into the Baneling Nest and then into the Evo chamber with the most expensive upgrade, eventually into a Roach Warren, right? And that would have been absolutely fantastic against a standard 2-base opener where, you know, you just open up with a couple of roaches and then you leverage that towards the third base. That's a build we see all the time at the pro level, and Reynor would have been fine against that, probably even a little bit ahead. Instead, if he would have stopped droning against the variant that Vanya was doing at like, I don't know, 38, maybe 40 or so, I'm pretty sure he would have absolutely smashed that army there of Vanya. I mean, obviously the defender's advantage in Zerg versus Zerg is huge, but I mean, I don't think Vanya is going to be able to pull it off twice in one series, but he doesn't need to. He already pulled it off once. And on Lightshade, it makes the most sense, right? Lightshade does have a very quick rush distance, so the distance from natural to natural is pretty short, allowing those queens to get into the battle at a, you know, reasonable time as well. Maybe they could have been a little bit quicker, but I think they probably shot at a couple of those overlords along the way as well. Either way, 1-0 right now for Vanya. Hatch gas pool once again from both of them. Not all too surprising. It is, of course, the standard in Zerg versus Zerg. The most standard thing to do right now in Zerg versus Zerg, so I always talk about the standard, but I can imagine not everyone like is familiar with what the standard is. So the standard is to go for a hatchery into a gas geyser, into a spawning pool. Then usually you go into a third base with a little bit of Zergling Baneling skirmish. Then you go into a Baneling Nest, of course, the Evo chamber when the Baneling Nest finishes, and then eventually a lair as well as a Roach Warren, and then we go into Roach Wars. Now, there's a lot of ways to deviate from that standard as well. Mutas, for example, are very common too in this matchup, and honestly, Muta play, I'm expecting it in this series as well. It's just a... I think Roach Ravager against Muta is much harder to play for the Roach Ravager player, just because playing defensively in StarCraft 2 in general is quite difficult. Usually more difficult at the very least than playing aggressively, so I wouldn't be surprised at all if we're going to see a little bit of Muta play as well, maybe especially from Vanya. I can imagine he feels like he's got a tough road ahead of him, but he is going to go for the third base this time around. You can see in the meantime, on the minimap already, drones are moving in unison as they are ready to become third hatcheries. Yeah, Vanya a little bit ahead of the opponent, although Reynor did add on a couple more drones before, well, eventually starting up that hatchery here. Vanya already waiting here with 2 Zerglings. Both players gonna try and out-micro each other. I always like it. It never really, like, goes in... Oh, well, you know what? It never really heavily makes a difference. But, hey, it's a mental advantage right here for Vanya, right? Once again, snapping one of those or catching one of those Zerglings, definitely not bad. Baneling Nest comes up, and the Baneling Nest is already coming up right here for Vanya. Yeah, he seems to be ever so slightly faster on most things here, although Reynor does have that small worker advantage right now. Resaturating the gas geyser inside of the main base. You can see the same thing happening right here for Vanya as well. So eventually, all the roads, they lead to Rome. Which probably helps out Reynor, huh? Being from Italy and all. But yeah, all the roads eventually lead towards a similar situation, usually. So Evo Chambers are coming up. Standard time for an Evo Chamber is around 325, 320, 330 or so. Basically, you want to start up that +1 missile early enough. I mean, you can also go into melee. So if you want to go into a Muta transition, usually you'd go into melee upgrades. So that would be one of our tells. Obviously, the opponent would not be able to figure that out until a little bit later. Carapace comes up for Vanya instead. Okay. So immediately, I make the assumption now that this is going to be a all-in. The thing is, if you want to play a macro game, Carapace is just simply a little inferior to going for missile. So, since both Zerglings, as well as Banelings, as well as Roaches, as well as everything else, well, other than flying units, benefit from the +1 Carapace, it makes me assume that it's going to be an all-out assault as soon as that Roach Warren finishes. So, he's probably going to cut workers right now. Either that or he's just going to play a normal game. I don't know. It would just be a little bit odd. I mean, it wouldn't be the end of the world. No lair yet, though. No lair. He does have a couple of overlords coming up in advance. Yep, he's saving up money right now for the Roach Warren to be done. He's going to make a huge influx of roaches. And then probably push across the map with +1 Carapace finishing up. The question is Reynor once again going to be caught with his pants down? So he's scouting right now. Nice little bit of control right here as well, maximizing the damage that these couple of Zerglings can do. He must have counted the amount of drones there, right? I mean, it's not like Reynor has a ton of workers over there either. I think he's just saving up at this point too. One cheeky little Baneling over here. Oh, he starts up 5 more drones. Yeah, I don't think he actually misread that. I think he actually just looked at it, he compared it to his own drone count. Oof. And he realized, okay, you know what? Totally fine. Nothing to worry about. Well, there's the roaches coming. 6 more roaches as a follow-up. 1 Baneling, though. Okay, getting a little bit of damage done. He's going to try and target fire down the weakened drones here in particular. The ones that those Banelings, or that 1 Baneling rather, bruised up. But the real problem is this roach group that's currently going across the map. A couple of spine crawlers are coming up. Okay, so 3 spines over at the 3rd base. Natural, mostly exposed here. Vanya's going to morph in a couple of aggressive Banelings as well. And here are the roaches. +1 missile is finished up here as well, though, for the Italian player. Question is he going to be able to produce enough stuff right now to defend against everything? Okay, hunting with the Banelings. That concave obviously really nice right here for Reynor, as all of his units will fire a little bit more aggressively. He's trying to split as well against the Banelings to make it so that these roaches take minimal amounts of damage. Clean defense. At the very least for now. Okay, even the roach right there. You see that? That the roach went back into the little choke point there, preventing the Banelings from going into the mineral line. Yeah, usually this progressively gets worse for the aggressor. Like, you need to really, like, you know, smash through that first wave of units. And if you don't, you're kind of just going to bleed out against the defender's advantage. I mean, now even the spine crawlers are done, of course, too, and that's huge. Vanya a little bit behind right now in the worker count. A little bit behind as well in the tech. So he starts up +1 missile here. He starts up his own lair. Okay, well, maybe he wanted to go for some sort of transition, but I guess against someone of the caliber of Reynor, he didn't feel like it. Yeah, definitely an early GG there. Can't really blame Vanya, though, when you're playing a best-of-5 series and you're playing, like, the next 10 minutes, which is probably how long it would take for Reynor to eventually clean up that game. Maybe a little bit less, I don't know. But he would basically be playing the entire mid-game from behind. And obviously there's a chance that the opponent is going to make a mistake, and I don't think Vanya would tap out at that point in a ladder game. I mean, yeah, I wouldn't have minded if he decided to stick around for a little bit longer, just because there's always the chance that a Reynor, you know, makes a mistake. But honestly, when you're both making the same units, and you're going up against the world champion, but you're behind in upgrades, you're behind in economy, and you're behind in tech, yeah, there's not much you're going to be able to pull off, right? Especially when you're both just making roaches at that point. I mean, you're going to fall behind Even though it's gonna take a while to bleed out, might not necessarily be the best situation to be in. Either way, this time around, Reynor, right here on 2000 Atmos, is gonna open up with a spawning pool. Fair enough. Maybe he's anticipating a 12 pool here from the opponent. So 12 pools, of course, are very common in Zerg versus Zerg. We see them all the time. If you go for a 12 pool, you can, catch your opponent off guard, especially when you go for a hatchery first. Or when they go for a hatchery first, rather. The problem is, though, if you go for a 12 pool against someone who went 16 pool, that's basically an auto lose. So this is a very safe start right here for Reynor. If you're struggling in this matchup, Reynor even saving up enough larva right as well to go for 6 Zerglings right from the get-go. If you're struggling in Zerg versus Zerg and you're dying to a lot of stupid stuff, I recommend playing this particular build right here from Reynor, where you go for the pool, into the hatch, and then eventually into the gas. It does put you a little bit behind against the build that Vanya is going for here. So Vanya is just opening up with a standard hatch gas pool, but I mean, as I've said many times before, the ladder in StarCraft 2 is all about trying to not die to stupid stuff, right? Just playing regular games, regular ranked games of StarCraft 2. It's all about not trying to, or trying to rather not to die to stupid things. So 6 Zerglings going across. It's not really going to matter all too much. If you can get a worker, that would be really nice. Vanya actually a little bit late right there on the OV. Guess it's on purpose. Ooh, catches one of the lings. Alright. Still, though, he's on point right there. Gonna start working on his hatchery for a little bit. And while this does look a tad dangerous here for the Russian player, once the queens are out, this should be defended. Although, very nice control right there, though, by Reynor. Whew. Very nice control. This Zergling has slowly healed back up to full as well. I guess it's gonna try and make a loop and then eventually get across the map. It's gonna be tricky for Vanya to take a third. Yeah. Not bad at all, dude. That was some stellar control right there by Reynor. Baneling Nest comes up once again. Another way in which you can trick your opponent quite well in Zerg versus Zerg is to go for a very quick Evo chamber. So we see this from time to time as well, and I'm actually personally a big fan of that cheesy build on the ladder. You can just kind of like hide an Evo chamber before you go for the Baneling Nest, or even before you go for the Zergling speed. That's, one of the most aggressive variants. Either way, Vanya is just going to run a ton of Zerglings across the map. He's got 16 more coming up. No third base in store for this man whatsoever. He's going to try and just simply win in the next couple of seconds. He's got a Baneling Nest as well, so at the very least he's going to be able to make 7 of those bad boys. Alright, interesting Evo chamber right there. Trying to just, I guess, reduce the surface area. Oh, yeah, reduce the surface area right there on the Banelings. God, that is a move that I haven't seen before. Nicely done right there by Reynor. Natural Expo is taking a lot of damage, but already there's a third hatch as well coming up here for the Italian player. Okay, he's trying to target fire down the Banes as well with the Queens. Trying to target fire down whatever. Natural Expo, though, is finishing up. Evo Chamber also did finish up over here. Broodlings are going to be able to get rid of at least a couple of these Banes. Very dicey game to be in so far, though. But, I mean, I feel like Reynor is still in control. Even though Vanya just, dealt a pretty huge blow to his opponent, it seems to me that Reynor is still very comfortable here. Yeah. I mean, obviously losing the natural wasn't great, but his micro is super stellar, man. Okay, a couple of drones are being picked off. That's something. The problem is, though, if you look at the worker count right now... Oh, so dangerous. So dangerous. He didn't know when those units were going to finish up. Anyways, if you look at the worker count right now, it's 30 versus 22. Obviously, Reynor is making non-stop... Oh, God. Did he even... Okay, almost keeping those drones alive, too. Obviously, Reynor is making non-stop Zerglings during all of this, so it's not like Vanya can really transition away from this either. But when you're both making the same unit, but one of them is doing so with more drones, you're going to find yourself with much more stuff. Oh, okay. This game apparently was recorded from replay. Maybe a little bit of a disconnect somehow, some way. Either way, a couple of drones are being queued up, but... Oh. Wouldn't be surprised at all, though, if Reynor is going to try and sneak in a couple of these Zerglings. There are a few defensive Zerglings available, and this is at the very least going to trigger a bigger retreat right now as well for the Russian. Ooh, thought for a second those were Banelings right there on the minimap. A couple more drones are being picked up. This is really nice. Yeah, that's great for Vanya. And this is what I mean, right? I said earlier that being the defensive player is usually much harder than being the offensive player. This is a great example. Vanya would have been ahead if he blew up like 5 more drones, right? And it's super easy to accidentally lose those 5 workers. I mean, Reynor right here ended up losing 5 workers in total, which is, you know, he's probably not happy with the defense, even though it's looked very stellar. It's just, yeah, that small mistakes can have very big consequences in the long run. Either way, that +1 missile is coming up in that awkwardly positioned evolution chamber. Roach Warren also starting up in the back of the main base. Vanya has got his own lair coming up, goes for the Roach Warren too. Evo chamber of his own is going to finish up as well, but obviously he doesn't have a third. So there's the +1 missile, okay. So once again, all of the roads eventually lead towards Roach Ravager, it seems. Pretty significant advantage right now, though, for Reynor after that early game. You can see how Vanya wins a lot of his Zerg versus Zerg games, right? He's trying to, like, outpace the opponent. The issue is, at the tippity top of the skill level, that doesn't really work. It works against pretty much everyone below, like, the top 10. But the top 10, they don't really die to, like, early game pressure too often. Misread Overlords over here as well. I think one of them will probably live, but this one exploded like a balloon. Okay, there's the Spire. So Vanya is going both Roaches, +1 missile as well, which indicates he wants to stick around on Roaches, but then also for a Spire. Lair's quite late here for Reynor. So at the very least, that's something that Vanya can once again bank on. He should be taking a map control as soon as the mutas are out. There's this weird moment though where you're building the Spire and you're trying your very best to save up minerals and gas to like build a bunch of mutas all at once. There's this window where the opponent can just attack with Roaches, because even though, you know, mutas eventually will kill all of the Roaches, there's no denying that they take a long time, right? The mutas, they definitely are not very good against armored units. Either way, looks like Reynor is happy just sitting back, making a bunch of stuff. Is he gonna make his own Spire, maybe? He's going 6 gases right now. Overseer Scout is coming up. Roach push right now, Vanya? Okay, this is a fake Roach push. He's already got 6 mutas on the back of this. Absolutely not a chance, by the way, for the player here in blue to deal any damage with Roaches, but he's got Roach Beast sooner than his opponent, so he can always run away. Yeah, I think this is just buying time right here for the mutas to come out, which is nice. Spire is spotted. Muta's also spotted if you didn't see the Spire. There's the Hydra then coming up. Okay. So this is Reynor almost flexing a little bit, right? He's flexing his defensive muscles. Showing us what you're supposed to be doing in these sort of scenarios. Not dying to the Zerking Baneling cheese. Not really dying to the mutas so far yet either. Although, again, it's very easy to make a small mistake. So usually mutas are also accompanied not just by, you know, mutas and roaches, but usually also with a bunch of... Is he going to transfuse? He is. Usually also by a bunch of lings and banes. You can imagine if you're very busy trying to like defend your bases against those mutas, a couple of banelings might just accidentally roll into a base here or there, or like, you know, your opponent is just going to out-expend you. It's very easy to accidentally be caught off guard. Either way, Reynor is just going to go into the Hydra transition, and in the meantime on the other side of the map, I mean, we do have +1 flyer. It still seems to me that Vanya probably wants to go. I'm not familiar with the style where you go +1 missile and then still double down on the mutas anyway. Like, it's a bit backwards. One of the reasons why, like, Mutaling Bane is very good is because Banelings absolutely trash Hydralisks. But in this case, I don't really see... I don't really see how Vanya is going to deal with the Hydras. Like, mutas alone are not going to cut it, will it? I mean, the supply count... the supply count. The supply count is also not lying at this point. Okay, Queen's available, transfusing the Hydras back up to full HP as well. Vanya is desperately trying to, like, you know, get his opponent to back off. He's like, back off! I've got a lot of mutas! Barking dogs don't bite, right? I mean, if all of the Hydras are cleaned up, I guess... The roaches are in a little bit of trouble. Well, this hatchery is definitely not going to happen, Vanya. Okay. A lot of roaches used for the counter-attack here as well by the Russian player. Queens have been pulled to the front too. Ooh, I kind of like it. Not something we normally see in this matchup either. I mean, that's a one-way trip. I don't really see those queens going back home, so... Best for them that we win right here if we're Reynor. Okay. Really? Okay. 11 hit points on that base. He doesn't really care about the base. He's looking for bigger things right now. He wants to win the game right here, right now. Vanya is reinforcing this with a ton of units. There once again to go to queens, and actually a couple of the roaches coming in from the back too. Transfusions are going down and keeping the hydras alive for a little while longer. Most of the mutas are running dangerously low on health. In the meantime, a few roaches over in the natural expansion of Reynor are being cleaned up too. And even though I think the mutas will eventually win the battle over here, he may very well be losing the war as reinforcements arrive right now, and there's absolutely no way for those mutas to clean everything up before the final structures are killed. Alrighty, so match point right here for the player in the top right-hand corner of Beckett Industries. Reynor playing a, clean series so far. A bit of a misread in game number 1. But other than that, it's been pretty good. Oh my god, is he going for a 12 pool? He is. Fair enough. Vanya, if you go hatch gas pool here, you might be in some trouble, my man. He's been going hatch gas pool a lot. He could be going 16 pool right now. 16 supply spawning pool, that is. Or 17 supply spawning pool, sure. Just don't go for hatchery first. Okay. It is gonna be a pool first. That's something. Obviously, there's multiple variations of the 12 pool. If Reynor decides to go for the 12 pool where you also pool most of the drones, yeah, that's game over, I'm pretty sure. Because Vanya's just gonna meet him with a bunch of Zerglings by the time he arrives on the other side of the map. Obviously, he's got overlords here that will scout pretty much everything. The alternate approach right here for Reynor is to go for an expo right about right now. He'd have to send a drone, though. Oh, God. Okay, he is sending a drone. Thought for a second this was just going to be a blind build order loss. Okay. So I guess this might also be like a defensive 12 pool start, right? So he's going to make a bunch of Zerglings. I don't think he's really going to be able to deal any damage with it. But the same is happening right now on the other side of the map. Vanya is making some of his own links, going for a queen. Both players going for a queen. They're both going for expos. Yeah. Eventually the situation once again seems to stabilize. A couple of drones pulled away from the mineral line. Okay. Just your classical game of high-level StarCraft right here. Drones fighting Zerglings in the earlier stages of the match. While both players are trying to actually expand. Ooh. Nice control there by Vanya, man. Very smooth control. Yeah. Very nicely done. It's very easy to still mess this up, by the way. Obviously, this is played on the European server, so neither player should really have any ping issues. But there's the queen. And the queen protected by Zerglings should be a-okay. So, what's the result at this point? Well, Vanya is a couple workers ahead. Okay, losing the queen would suck. Zergling's coming back in for more. Okay. Beautiful control there, man. Vanya. Jeez, dude. That was gorgeous. Really nice control there by the Russian player on the drones. Flawless. I mean, obviously he lost more Zerglings than he probably would have liked, but that was about as good as it gets. Alright, so we're 3 minutes into the game. Normally we're at this point at like the 2.5 minute mark. Both players delaying each other a little bit here and there, but in the end, no one really getting a major advantage. Although, you know, Vanya definitely in a good spot here. Decides to go for a very quick lair once more. So no Zergling speed. Skipping it entirely. Reynor also trying to trick his opponent, by the way, by skipping Zergling speed. Wait, he's going for an Evo chamber before he's got any gas? So double gas starts up right now. I guess it's just a wall off. This is going to be another Evo? Or a Roach Warren? Okay. It's going to be a Roach Warren. We may very well see a very similar build here. Maybe not. I was going to say, maybe a very similar build to what we saw in game number 1. Just like 35-ish workers. +1 missile, roach speed, let's go. I mean, maybe that is what he's going for. Yeah. You know what? He's actually 34 drones again, 3 gas. It's just with a 3rd base, and this is something Reynor has scouted. So this may actually kind of backfire here. Reynor probably feels like he's in a spot right now where he really needs to power out the drones. He is on 2 bases himself, so that's something. He's also obviously skipping Zergling speed and the Baneling Nest and everything here too, so that's also something. It's gonna make the defense a little bit easier if Vanya once again decides to go for a push. He goes roach speed, he goes +1 missile, does queue up a couple more drones just in case. Probably upon realizing that his opponent is still playing 3 base. Or, sorry, he's not playing 3 base, he's just still playing 2 base. Sees the timing of the lair right there, sees the timing of the gas, not really too concerned of Mutas here anytime soon. So it should be okay right here for Vanya. Okay. Lair's done right here as well for Reynor, so he decides to go for an Overseer of his own. One Zergling here scouting out to see if there's a Spire or something along those lines. It's just going to be a lot of roaches. I mean, because of that early game, Vanya does find himself currently at a little lead here. +1 is going to finish up. Roach speed is going to finish up. I think Vanya probably wants to go across the map pretty soon. I mean, once you finish up Glial, there's really no particular reason not to. He does drone up heavily behind this. Okay. So in the meantime, on the other side, Reynor is now taking the 3rd base of his own. He's making a couple of roaches of his own as well. But Vanya, always playing tricky games, goes across the map about halfway, and then he's like, yeah, you've seen me coming. You'll probably be scared of me now. I'll just back off while droning behind. I kind of like it, because obviously when you push halfway, it's going to force your opponent to make units, and those units are not going to be able to achieve too much. Yeah, Zerg for the Zerg. Well, it's a game of drones, it's also a game of chicken, right? Whoever decides to make units first and not win, oftentimes can lead into some very terrible results. Okay. So double upgrades here for Reynor, using those 2 Evos he originally built as a wall off right now to upgrade both at once. Single upgrade here for Vanya. His army, though, is growing very rapidly. Yeah, he's got 12 workers over here at the 3rd base, 55 drones. I always thought with 55 drones, you go 5 gases. That's what I've seen Reynor do a bunch... Or, sorry, Cyril do a bunch of times anyway. I believe he actually also used to do that with a knight... Okay, well, there's the gas. With a knight as worm. Either way, Scout right now comes up for Reynor. Tries to see what's going on. Has to back off once again because Brenda and Karen here are shooting spines at the Overseer. This is not the time to push Reynor. Oof. Reynor thinks this may be the moment to move out. Oh my god. Is he creating like a surround? Ooh. Alright, Reynor didn't see, but his... Oh no, I think he did see a bunch of the army. His game senses at the very least were tingling there. Realizing that something wasn't quite right, and he was baited into a trap. 4 corrosive bowels is all it takes right there to get rid of one of those overlords. Reynor does have a nice little concave over here, fair enough. Couple queens obviously also joining in. +2 just about to finish up right here for Vanya. Reynor not done yet with +2/+1 of his own. It's a bit of a disconnected fight though, because neither player actually has finished up their upgrades. But there's just way too much stuff here. Vanya obtains the victory. And that brings us to Blackburn. Stellar game right there by Vanya, not really making a whole lot of errors as far as I could tell. Especially that early game defense was very clean, and he eventually, even though it took like, I don't know, another 6 minutes or so, he eventually leveraged that towards an advantage in a huge army difference. It's the nature of the mirror matchups, right? Eventually, if you, build on that advantage for long enough, you'll just simply overpower your opponent pretty heavily. Alright, so what are we doing right here on Blackburn? Both players going up to 16 supplies so far. Drone moving down the high, or towards the low ground right here for Vanya. Drone moving down towards the low ground as well for Reynor. They laugh in the face of danger. They know that this is an important game. It's 2-2 in the series right now. The player that wins this map is the one that will be the victor, but they still go hatchery first regardless. This is a pretty decent map for 12 pools. So, you know, could backfire pretty badly. Hatch gas pool, once again. Overlord's just trying to, scout out whatever they can right here in the center of the map. Vanya actually sending this one a little bit further up north. So if you decide to, for example, run by a bunch of Zerglings, usually it's sent up from here to right over there, and then eventually across. This is why Vanya is sending, and Reynor actually too, they're sending their Overlords in a bit of a weird pattern, just to make sure that even like the secondary, most likely, rush path that the opponent would go for would be scouted ASAP. Overlord kiss? Aww. What? No. Rude, Reynor. Reynor didn't want to Overlord kiss. Fair enough. Queens. One set of Zerglings each, and an extra OV. Link speed starts up. One drum pulled out of gas. Yep. Basically identical so far, right? You can see, though, Vanya seems to be a little bit quicker on a bunch of these things. I've noticed this in every single game so far. Like, ever so slightly faster. Not that it really matters, but if you're comparing production tabs all the time, right? At some point, you'll, I guess you see that there's some small differences and small deviations here and there. This might be the bigger deviation for now, though. No third base yet for Vanya. What do you have in mind? Or, yeah, no, for Vanya. What do you have in mind this time around? Reynor going for the baneling nest. Vanya going for another gas geyser inside of the main base. Zergling will not be able to... Or, sorry, in the natural rather. Zergling, because it was in the main base, did not quite scout it. Evo chamber comes up as well. And once again, a very quick lair. Did he cancel link speed? Oh, I think he did, yeah. So Vanya is just going instantly into the lair again. Probably will go into a very quick +1 missile. Oh, he goes melee. Okay. So he's playing 2-base Muta. I believe he is playing 2-base Muta right now. Yep. It has to be. So he does start up a Roachborn. So that's just, you know, to trick the opponent a little bit as well. And maybe for like a later game transition. So this time around, he is rushing up to 44 drones as quickly as possible. So enough for 2-base saturation. And then eventually we're going to be seeing the Spire. Reynor probably still remembering the previous games in this series. Probably not too happy with this situation. It's difficult for him to scout anything right now. So he's going to be kind of in the darkness here for at least a little bit. Could be Roaches, could be a Queen March, could be like a Nidus play. Could be a whole bunch of stuff. Could be Spire, right? Which I think is what it's going to be here. Yeah, there it is. Basically has to be when you go +1 melee and 4 gas. Oh. Are we gonna do the shuffle? This queen has less energy, dude. Aw. The high energy queen in the front? Okay, yeah, okay, this makes more sense. In the meantime, Reynor droning up to about 40... Well, he's apparently not too scared about this. 40-something. 45, 46. Now he starts up his Zergling production. No lair to be seen yet anywhere, though, so it means that Reynor is going to be forced to defend all of this mid-game aggression from Vanya with early-game units. He did start up his own +1 carapace, so that's something. At the very least, he's not just going to lose the Ling Bane battle. Huge Baneling clump over here as well, though, for Reynor. Little bit risky there. Usually you want to be using, you know, if you're playing defensively, usually you want to be using your tools defensively if you can. Anyways, +1 carapace is finishing up. 6 mutas are coming up. +1 melee at this point is done. So these Zerglings in blue are significantly faster and significantly stronger. There's 1 Baneling coming in from the side as well. And drones in the mineral line in so much trouble. Vanya does not pay attention for about, what, 2 seconds there? Instantly loses a mineral line worth. Queen's right now in a world of trouble as well. +1 carapace is done. So these Zerglings are effectively back down to +0/+0. I mean, at least when they're fighting against each other, the mutas are going to have a little bit of a harder time. Reynor takes a dominating advantage right there. There's so many Zerglings inside of the main base right now. And while, once again, eventually I do expect these mutas to be able to clean everything up, that is a lot of drones that will be destroyed there. And there's absolutely zero chance for the Russian player to continue sticking in this series. So there it is. Reynor does win. This final game kind of shows you that margin of error that I've been trying to explain, right? One little mistake, bam, it's game over. That's why a lot of the latter games of ZVZ are very short. Anyways, for now, I hope you enjoyed watching this video. If you did, hit that like button down below. And if you want to see more, hit the subscribe button. But I especially want to thank you for watching. Have a great day. Don't forget to smile. And I'll see you once again in the next one.